Hello and welcome to Jtimes, where we uncover the Kabbalah take on Jewish issues and current events. And with me, as usual, is Kabbalist Dr. Michael Laitman. Hello, Dr. Laitman. And in one of our previous conversations, we talked about the soul and how it's a collective thing. It's something that exists among us in the connections among us.
It is the desires that everyone has to connect with all the others. If you put all these desires together, that's what builds what we call Knesset Israel, the gathering of Israel, or the soul.
Right, the assembly of Israel. But we also said that now, in these global times, it's something that the whole world must do. It's something that's collective to the whole of humanity, right? And then we were talking about the global crisis. And we said that, well, we didn't exactly say what it is, but I would like to focus not so much on the crisis in this show, but on the correction. Because in Judaism, there's this concept, Tikkun Olam, correction of the world. Now, from what I usually I see it in relations usually to money. Noam Nusner, former speechwriter for former President George W. Bush, yes, Republican of course, wrote in foreword about the issue of Tikkun Olam. Now he was explaining sarcastically that the democratic view of Tikkun Olam involves more taxes, while Tikkun Olam really should be implemented in the form of charity. Alternatively, there's a program called Tikkun Olam for young Jews to come to Israel to volunteer, and they present a different take on Tikkun Olam. They come here, they volunteer, they work with Jews and Arabs in Jaffa and Tel Aviv, and they try to bring peace in this way. But from what I already learned about Kabbalah, I have a feeling you're going to present a whole different concept of Tikkun Olam. Can you explain the Kabbalah take on Tikkun Olam?
First of all, what is the brokenness?
Yes, okay.
Or corruption? The corruption is that we are egoistic. Everyone thinks about himself, the benefit of himself, and the detriment of others, meaning we want to exploit others, and in our competition with others to be the bigger, the higher that we can. And this tendency is unlike it exists in animals. If an animal eats another animal, it does that in order to survive. We don't do that. We do that for the sake of our ego. It's not enough for me to just make a living, you know. I have to have more and more and more and be better and bigger and so on. And it's very characteristic of Jews as well.
Yes. We like to call it self-entitlement.
Right.
So what? That's the corruption?
That's the corruption, yeah. Our brokenness or corruption is that we want to exploit all the others for our own gain and at the expense of others. When I feel that the other is humiliated, lower towards me, I feel better. When I feel higher towards others, I feel better. That's called egoism. That is the destructive force that eventually destroys the world.
And there's too much of it now in the world, so the world is breaking up?
Yes. No, not just that. We have evolved to a point where our ego that kept growing and growing began to create in all the human man-made systems. It created things that are actually against us. We see it in healthcare, in advertisement, in what's happening now in the family unit, what is created between children and parents. We see that everything today takes on a certain distortion and negative form that is not really to our benefit, that is to our detriment. We've reached such a state where our life is not becoming any more pleasant or good, not as we thought, say, in the 50 years ago. In the last 50 or 60 years, we just keep declining, deteriorating. Everything is becoming more and more threatening and so on. And it's because our egoism became more and more integral, which means that we are also becoming interconnected. So as we also said in the previous episode about the soul, that we're all connected, so it seems like it's good.
Right?
The problem is that the type of connection between us is not good. When we all become connected, and today in the world we discover that we are truly all interdependent, this interdependence is not a good one. It's not an interdependence of mutual love, of mutual joy and good relation to each other. And in that case, the connection between us is a good one.
But some aspects of it are good. Like if I don't know, didn't buy products from China, I'd have to pay a lot more for them, for example.
Correct, but this isn't the trade and commerce that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the human connection that destroys everything, including trade and commerce eventually. At the end, it ruins everything. The fact that we have entered a new era where everyone is becoming more and more connected, yet the form of connection between us is egoistic. This is what leads to implications and repercussions in everything we do, and that is what we collectively call a global crisis.
Okay, so let me see if I got it. The essence, or maybe the origin of the global crisis, is self-centered or egoistic connections among people.
Yes, and we weren't so connected before. We weren't connected before.
What do you mean?
Up until, say, 50 or 60 years ago, we weren't connected at all.
We weren't connected.
No, we
or
weren't
didn't feel it?
connected. Everyone worked in their own way, egoistically. Everyone profited whatever they could. And, we were as if independent. We didn't want to touch each other. Today, I still don't want to touch anyone, but I have to. We're tied together, and we're connected internally. There's a lot of research done about this, showing that we are truly becoming as one system, and that's why it's called a global effect. There's what we call the butterfly effect in this global system, and so on. Phenomena showing that we're all interconnected. In this new global world, where we're all reciprocally connected as an integrated system, and it's a bad type of connection, we cannot continue that way. We can't keep managing it. This is the problem. The system is unfamiliar to us because on the one hand, it ties us all together. On the other hand, we don't want to be connected together. When I say, run a certain system, let's say a big industry system or a bank or some investment company or something, so I want to direct myself and all my managers and all the arms that I have to doing some actions, and it doesn't work. Why? Because I'm not taking into account my connection with others.
So why? I watched a clip on YouTube. I think it was produced by the World Economic Forum in Switzerland this summer, right? Davos, right? Mm-hmm. And they offered 3 avenues by which they think the world economy can go. And one of them suggested we break up the ties. So why not just break up the ties, go into regionalism or isolation?
We can't do that.
And why not?
Even if we go through a world war, and some think that
If we do, we'll all kill each other. That's obvious.
No, let's say we won't all kill each other, but some will remain.
10 people will remain.
No, people will remain. It's not that. But let's say, at least in order to destroy the connections that we have today and go back to 100 years ago.
Okay, so it's not going to
It
work?
won't happen. No,
Why
we
not?
won't be able to do this. This connection is no longer stoppable. We will ruin industry and all systems, and we'll have to reestablish everything, but the connection will always remain between us because it's something that is inherent in nature, and it develops according to a cosmic clock, not according to the human's development on the face of the planet.
So
We're already interconnected.
So how come we don't feel it?
We do. We do. We feel that connection between us as a bad thing rather than a good thing. We do feel that we're becoming connected, and we don't want that connection. Look at what we're doing. Today, if we establish some sanctions against the country, that we don't sell or buy from that country, that's it. The country will collapse, even if it has everything for itself.
But again, that's a financial thing, economical thing.
Not only economical, it's in everything. We've already closed ourselves as a network on the outside, but even worse than that, we're interconnected inside, from heart to heart, from person to person. And that connection is an egoistic one.
And that's the connection I don't feel. You're saying we're connected inside, but if I'm, if I love someone, I feel connection. But even then, I don't feel, dependent. I don't feel like it's something that I can't break up. And people do break up. So you're saying there's a connection whether we feel it or not.
Yes, we are connected by nature. Our ego has grew to a point where it grew just like, let's say, anything that grows from bottom up, and everyone grew to a certain height, and then it became connected. And that connection is what we are finding today as a global crisis. And we can't do anything about it. It's a natural development we go through. It's evolution of human society. And here we have to do the correction that you asked about in the beginning, to talk about what tikkun, what correction is. The correction is exactly moving from the bad connection to the good connection.
How do we do it?
How to do it? By starting to, first of all, do actions of education. We all have to learn. What is the world we're in? What is going on with us? What is happening here? Why do we have to be connected? And we didn't choose this. The natural evolution of humans have brought us to this phase. Just like we went through all the previous phases in history, now we've reached a point where we are an integrated global society, like it or not. In that society, how can we make the correction? How can we be all connected as cells of a single body instead of becoming like cancerous cells in the body where everyone wants to consume the others, and that kills ourselves and all of humanity?
But the reason we are behaving like cancerous cells is that we don't feel that connection. Because if we did, we wouldn't be doing it, because we'd know we're hurting ourselves this way. And we don't know we're hurting ourselves, so we're acting what seems to be in our best interest.
This is why the wisdom of Kabbalah becomes revealed today. And it tells us about the era that we're living in and what we have to do. Firstly, the Jews, then the rest of the world. How to become connected correctly. And we have no choice. We'll have to do it.
But my question is, in order to make me want to connect in the right way, don't I first have to feel that I'm connected in the wrong way?
Yes, but you have to be taught about where all the problems and pressures come from. The world is already beginning to feel that it's declining continuously. So we have to explain where it's coming from, that it's coming from an incorrect connection between us, and we can't cut off that connection. Look at what will happen in Europe once they'll begin to separate from each other, and they have such plans about it. If they do that, it'll be total collapse. And specifically those who seem to be more successful today, like Germany and France, you'll see how they will be damaged more than the others. There's no choice. We only have to aim towards connection, only a correct connection that creates equality, understanding, mutuality, reciprocity. We have to soften the human. We have to correct the human relation to others, so that we are connected like a family. That's what nature is literally pushing us to. And the key to do it exists in the Jews, in the wisdom of Kabbalah, and that's why this wisdom appears today. And we must first make a connection between us for the sake of correcting the world. And that's the correction of the world. That's Tikkun Olam. And now is the time. And if we, God forbid, don't do it on time, if we don't start doing it already, then the nations of the world will begin pushing us more, because subconsciously they feel that we are the problem, that we hold the key. And that's why many say that we are the source of all troubles, because indeed we possess the key to everyone's happiness.
That's very interesting. And by the way, I just read in Henry Ford's anti-Semitic book that actually, to me, even as a Jew, it sounds like he's very appreciative of Jews, that he's not really an anti-Semite, but that somehow he says that Jews in the past had it all right. They had a beautiful society. They had a spiritual society. He actually wrote it there. They wouldn't let people, of their own nation, be tyrants. They had a very just social system. They were not abusive of each other, and they lost all of that once they went into exile.
True. They lost it before the exile, meaning the fact that they began to delve into the egoism. That's what actually is called ruin of the temple. Bet HaMikdash, the temple, means the house of sanctity, which refers to the collective soul, the collective connection, special connection that existed between all of them. That's called the soul of Israel. That's what they lost. They fell from brotherly love to unfounded hatred, and that's why they went out to exile. And now, after the exile has ended, we once again have to rise up from unfounded hatred to brotherly love, and then connect all the nations of the world with us. And then people just like Ford will understand that we are doing the right things we're supposed to do. When I speak to similar people, like-minded like him around the world, they understand me very well, and I understand where their anti-Semitism comes from, and they understand me, and we are both talking as people who understand each other. What is the problem with the Jews? What is the problem with the nations? And then the only problem is really how to push everyone towards connection.
So when you talk to them, what happens to their anti-Semitism? Does it change?
They understand me very well. We aren't saying goodbye hateful of each other. We understand each other.
Do they still?
No. If they realize that we are already working towards connection, they stop being anti-Semite. They continue their anti-Semitic tendencies until you realize what you're supposed to do.
So
because
basically,
you're holding the key to their happiness.
When they see that you're doing what they even subconsciously think you're supposed to do, it diffuses their anti-Semitism?
He becomes your helper. He's willing to help you.
And you've seen that happen?
Of course. And I'm certain that if I would meet him, Henry Ford, I would also succeed in speaking with him and joining him in this activity that I'm doing. Undoubtedly, today I'm meeting all kinds of people who are ideologists of anti-Semitism in the world. People who very well are familiar with the Gemara and the Zohar and all our sources. And they are very smart people. When I talk to them about the correction of the world, Tikkun Olam, they are willing they understand it, they get it immediately, they're willing to join it.
And if I go back to what you said in a previous talk, the thing that we have to give to the world, for which anti-Semites hate us, is unity. We're not giving them the unity, right? That's what they need from us, unity.
Only the unity is what elevates the whole of humanity closer to the upper force and all of us towards a higher level of life, an eternal and whole level of life. Unity is what detaches you from this physical body and makes you acquire a new body, what we call the collective soul, and you begin to live there, you begin to feel there a higher level of reality, as if a world that is above our world. That's why it's called an upper world. And through that sensation, you rise so higher than the feeling that you can experience in your own body that you almost don't feel the body. It stays with you, it accompanies you, but even when it dies, you don't feel like you are dead. I sometimes give this example that it's like cutting off your nails, which is on the vegetative level as opposed to the animate level, which is your body. So you don't feel any pain because it's one level higher than another level. In the same way, when you acquire the level of life on the level of the soul, when your flesh and blood body dies, you don't feel it. It's like, throwing off your... my teacher used to give this example. He said, it's like in the evening, you throw your shirt to the washing machine. That's how you feel, because you already exist on a different realm.
In the connection?
In your connection with others, you have acquired this level of life.
That's where you live now? That's where you live? You live in the connection?
You live in that, in your soul. And then the body, you get rid of it. It's that you don't need it. You don't need you don't actually need it. That's what we were supposed to do.
And the connection remains even without the body?
Yes, of course. Because we live in a desire. When you have acquired a desire on a higher level. Even quantum physics talks about similar effects. This is something that scientists are coming close to today.
Because right now, when I think of desires, I think of, things that I want. I can relate some tangible connection to them. But you're talking about a desire that's got nothing to do with any
it's
physical.
Very tangible. Very tangible.
It is tangible.
In desires.
But it's not physical, right?
It doesn't relate to your physical body, of course.
Yes,
so
that's
what?
what I'm saying.
You live in a feeling. You live in what you feel.
And you're saying that sensation exists whether or not my physical protein body exists or not.
Exactly. No connection with your flesh. It's just proteins. So, coming to that level where you move from your sense of life in the physical body to the life of the soul is something you have to do.
Unity.
Exactly now or in our time, and show the example and the path for the world. And that's called correcting the world.
As usual, our time is up way too soon. Before we wrap it up, can you just summarize basically what we talked about, the correction of the world, Tikkun Olam, and unity and anti-Semitism? Can you all package it into a 1-minute explanation?
I think that once we will tell everyone, all the nations of the world, including the greatest anti-Semites, that we are going towards correction of the world, connecting everyone in order to elevate humanity to the level of the soul, they'll understand it. They'll feel that we are finally doing what we are supposed to do, that we owe them to do this, and we have to do this, and you'll see that you'll get support from them. Just like Isaiah the prophet says, that the nations of the world shall take all the people of Israel upon their shoulders and lead them to build the third temple.
But we have to also not just say it, but also do it ourselves.
Well, of course, yes.
Be an example, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Leitman. That was very enlightening.
It will happen that way.
Yes, absolutely. I hope so too. Thank you very much for being with us, and please be with us in our next show.